See Louis, Tom, and of course the champ and Eddie for taking this fight with Edgar. Keith Connolly done a great job to get this made. But this isn't just about winning the lottery. This is about claiming the ticket. And Edgar Berlanga is here only to win. 16 first-round knockouts in his first 16 fights, 22-0. This kid has amateur pedigree, this kid has ability, this kid has dynamite in his hands, and this kid has a big set of cojones that will put everything on the line on September the 14th.
Boxing pros have revealed their picks for the Canelo Alvarez versus Edgar Berlanga fight. Canelo is set to return to the boxing ring, defending his undisputed super middleweight titles against Berlanga on September 14th.
This is our main event, September 14th. Canelo Alvarez and Edgar Berlanga meets for the WBA, WBC, and WBO super middleweight world titles.
The bout is set just 2 days ahead of Mexican Independence Day, a strategic timing Canelo has often favored throughout his career. Canelo, with a record of 61, 2-2, and 39 knockouts, recently secured a unanimous decision victory against Jaime Munguia in May. This triumph marked his 4th consecutive win since returning to the super middleweight division, following his unsuccessful bid for the WBA light heavyweight title against Dimitri Bivol in May 2022. Berlanga, an undefeated rising star, boasts an impressive 22-0 record, with 17 of those victories coming by knockout. His latest triumph came in February when he secured a 6th-round TKO against Padraig McCrory. Numerous fans had been eager to witness Canelo take on the up-and-coming sensation David Benavidez, who recently boosted his record to 29-0 by overcoming Oleksandr Gvozdyk to secure the WBC interim light heavyweight title. While Canelo has been hesitant about this bout due to Benavidez's imposing stature and youthful vigor, he has lately expressed a willingness to consider the challenge if the financial offer is compelling enough. We'll see. Why not? If the money is correct, why not? Alvarez said during an appearance on ESPN's First Take in May. Fans will have to wait till Alvarez defeats Berlanga in order to fantasize about seeing Benavidez once more. Fat Joe has consistently stood by Edgar Berlanga, his fellow Puerto Rican, as he has risen through the boxing ranks. Moreover, rap legend Jay-Z stood alongside Berlanga at the Palladium Times Square on Monday during the Canelo Alvarez Berlanga press conference in New York City. Joe then had some words to say to those who are undervaluing Berlanga's potential to pull off what would be seen as a major upset. Joe started telling DAZN News, "I've been fighting this type of adversity my whole life. I know what he's going up against. So the hate, that doesn't do nothing but fuel guys like us. We're cut from the same cloth. This man wanted the fight. I don't think you'll understand that. This guy wanted the fight. It's not like, oh, you gotta fight Alvarez? Really? No, this guy wants the fight." Joe believes that Berlanga, despite his unbeaten record, has more than just a puncher's chance to surprise the world by defeating Alvarez and seizing the title of unified super middleweight world champion. Joe tacked on about Berlanga, "He's got dynamite in his gloves. Never sleep on the boxer. I have never seen a fight that Edgar Berlanga has fought where he doesn't hit someone somewhere where they're like, whoa, they wake up. It's like when you walk outside and that cold hits you." This is a tale of 2 Davids, set against the backdrop of a shifting landscape in the 168-175-pound divisions. After years of challenging Canelo Alvarez, David Benavidez has shifted gears, now stepping into the light heavyweight ring. Meanwhile, the spotlight turns to Osvary David Morell Gutierrez Jr., better known as David Morell. The Cuban-born pugilist made his debut in the 175-pound division, facing Radivoje Kalajic for the vacant WBA title at the Terence Crawford Israel Madrimov headliner. Much like his namesake, Morell has long pursued a bout with Canelo Alvarez, with their destinies seemingly linked. Despite their efforts, neither has secured the coveted fight. David Morell even reached out to David Benavidez, but his attempts were fruitless. Now, with Alvarez opting for a title defense against Edgar Berlanga, Morell, the Santa Clara-born southpaw, finds his WBA mandatory status to be a ludicrous notion. During fight week, the schedule kicked off with the Grand Arrivals, the initial pre-event spectacle on Tuesday. In a conversation with a cluster of journalists, David Morell seemed visibly exasperated by the incessant inquiries about the upcoming September 14th bout featuring Canelo Alvarez and Edgar Berlanga. "Man, this fight's bullshit. Everybody knows. I don't want any more questions about this fight. It's crazy," he said. The Cuban-American boxer grasps the reality that ultimately, it's all about business. business. Nonetheless, he points out that Canelo Alvarez has sidestepped clashes with two Cubans, himself and potentially Uwel Hernandez, in the 168-pound division. Furthermore, it's become widely recognized that Alvarez has ignored David Benavidez' challenges, suggesting how Canelo Alvarez has been going after less challenging opponents, David Morell felt. Berlanga is easy for him. Referring to last year's Jermall Charlo fight, where the Iron Man moved 2 divisions up to meet Alvarez at the super middleweight, he said, "Everybody's here. I'm not talking shit. Everything's here. For me, this fight's bullshit." Several reporters inquired about how he would rate the threat Berlanga could pose to Alvarez on a scale from 1 to 10. When the conversation shifted to assessing Berlanga's potential danger in a bout against David Benavidez, Morell, with a grin, gave a playful score of 16. Yet, putting humor aside, he acknowledged the Mexican monster as an exceptional fighter. In just 5 short years, David Morell has established himself as a formidable force in the super middleweight division, long overshadowed by Canelo Alvarez. Marking his first anniversary in the sport, the Southpaw claimed the interim championship. By the next year, he had ascended to the role of regular champion. Since then, he has fiercely defended his title, with his 6th defense against Sena Agbeko occurring last December. Meanwhile, Canelo Alvarez and his new challenger locked eyes for the first time at their title defense press conference in New York. The encounter between Alvarez and Edgar Berlanga was marked by a steely confrontation. However, the bout has stirred some discontent among fans, who were hoping to see Alvarez square off against bigger names like David Benavidez or David Morell. Instead, the fight against Berlanga has left many wondering if the excitement factor is lacking. Eddie Hearn, who holds a multi-fight contract with the Chosen One, recently had a face-to-face with the reigning super middleweight champion. Initial reports suggest the encounter began with some tension as Canelo Alvarez sought clarifications from Hearn. Thankfully, the meeting ended on a more amicable note, with both parties sharing a friendly exchange. The interaction between Alvarez and Hearn has captured considerable attention, particularly as Alvarez prepares for his upcoming fight. This match follows his previous defense of the undisputed title against Jaime Munguia. As he gears up for the September 14th bout, Alvarez has been stripped of his IBF title, reducing his status to that of a unified champion. Michael Benson's tweet suggested that Eddie Hearn and Canelo Alvarez were talking about last week's Terence Crawford versus Israel Madrimov clash. Canelo Alvarez and Eddie Hearn discussing the promotion of Terence Crawford versus Israel Madrimov today, it read. As the short clip shows, both the champion and the promoter were standing. Perhaps the meeting was nearing its end. Looking at the Englishman, Canelo Alvarez said, "You've been talking about me all f***ing week." Perhaps the poser caught the Matchroom boss off guard. As one of Matchroom Boxing's standout fighters, Israel Madrimov's prominence seemed to prompt Canelo Alvarez to suspect that Eddie Hearn was using his own star power to boost interest in the upcoming bout with Bud Crawford. Hearn, however, was quick to clarify that the event required significant promotional efforts, and who better to spotlight than Alvarez himself? The explanation resonated with Canelo, who responded with a knowing smile and a nod of agreement toward Hearn. It was as if he had already anticipated this strategy. "I think that's exactly right," he remarked. As Eddie Hearn stepped back, he glanced over to make sure his family was all right. Alvarez reassured him that all was well at home. "Catch you in a bit," Hearn said before heading out. Naturally, the interaction sparked a flood of responses from fans, many of whom had plenty to say about both parties involved.
You're talking the whole meal fucking week.
So we said we have to use your names to sell the show.
Yeah.
You know.
That's what I think.
Good? Good?
Yeah.
Good. See you in a minute.
Interestingly, Canelo Alvarez and Eddie Hearn were partners until the previous year, when Alvarez signed a lucrative 3-fight, $100 million agreement with Al Haymon. The bout against Jermall Charlo marked the beginning of this new venture. However, the collaboration with PBC was short-lived, leading to a mutual decision to end their partnership. According to the latest updates, the September 14th event, featuring the middleweight title clash between Erislandy Lara and Danny Garcia, along with Caleb Plant's comeback bout, will be jointly promoted by Canelo Promotions and TGB Promotions. Eddie Hearn's Matchroom Boxing will also lend its support to the event. During the press conference, Berlanga was certain David Benavidez's name would come up, and Berlanga didn't hold back when the topic was raised. Berlanga expressed that he did not want to hear about Benavidez, using explicit language to emphasize his disdain. He remarked that many people kept bringing up Benavidez and others, despite knowing that a fight with them was not going to happen. Berlanga concluded by affirming that on September 14th, it would be Berlanga versus Canelo, representing Puerto Rico against Mexico.
And I don't want to hear, listen, man, I don't want to hear Benavidez, fuck Benavidez. You know, shout out to Crawford, you know what I'm saying? But they keep mentioning Crawford. He fought a 54-pounder. You know, it was a tough fight. You know, we got business to handle September 14th. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people just keep mentioning Benavidez and all these guys, man. Like, y'all know it's not going to happen. You feel me? And that's just that, man. Like, September 14th, Berlanga, Canelo. Puerto Rico versus Mexico.
Berlanga had more to say after the news conference for those who think Benavidez ought to have challenged Alvarez rather than him. He said, "Those are haters, man. And all those people out there, they're gonna still buy the pay-per-view. They're still gonna talk. Floyd became Floyd. Why? Because he had so many people hating him. Right or wrong?" Berlanga continued, "Floyd became Floyd because of the hate. If Floyd never had the hate, Floyd would never be who he was. You need that, and I'm used to that hate. I go on social media and see things, and that fuels me because the greatest victory is when it's won, and you could shut all the haters up. That's the best feeling." Edgar Berlanga Sr., Berlanga's father and trainer, concurs and rejects Benavidez's identity. He said, "I don't care about that. We got the fight, and we're going to beat Canelo." Eddie Hearn was on the opposite side of boxing's face on Monday after having promoted Canelo Alvarez in several bouts. The Matchroom boxing promoter is throwing their support behind Edgar Berlanga. Even though a faction of boxing enthusiasts and analysts is urging Alvarez to face David Benavidez, Hearn is preparing to give Berlanga a serious opportunity next month. He told the media, "I think Edgar is being overlooked and disrespected. He's here only to win. He had 16 first-round knockouts in his first 16 fights. He's got dynamite in his hands, and he'll put everything on the line September 14th.
I think Edgar's been overlooked, disrespected. He's the #1 challenger with the WBA. He's the mandatory challenger. He's earned the right to this shot. And when we signed him 13 months ago, we promised him a shot at the great Canelo Alvarez. As things moved on, that shot looked as though it would become more difficult. And as always, it's the lottery ticket of boxing to land the shot against Canelo Alvarez.
Having said that, Hearn took the time to criticize those who believe the boxing veteran is sidestepping Benavidez after spending time with Alvarez. Hearn mentioned that Canelo is willing to fight anyone and has no fear of any opponent. However, he noted that Canelo would have a specific figure in mind for the deal, and if that figure could not be met, Canelo would proceed with his mandatory fights until an agreement could be reached. Hearn believes the Alvarez-Benavidez fight could eventually happen. He noted that as the fight gains attention and demand increases, so does the potential revenue. Hearn stated that Canelo Alvarez is willing to take on any fight if the financial offer is sufficient, but he also mentioned that Canelo has a specific price in mind, and it remains to be seen if that price can be met.
I know that Canelo Alvarez wants real fights, guys that will come to him to win. This guy won't dance around the ring. He won't try and survive the 12 rounds. He will come for a firefight with Canelo Alvarez. And yes, it is Puerto Rico against Mexico, but it's deeper than that. This is an opportunity of a lifetime for Edgar and his father.
Meanwhile, Edgar Berlanga is destroying any criticism he's getting over his prospects of defeating Canelo Alvarez. That includes criticism he's received from Caleb Plant, who recently told KO Artist Sports that Berlanga's gotta be able to use boxing skills he doesn't have a chin that he doesn't have, and the experience that he doesn't have to defeat Alvarez. Berlanga addressed those comments directly while recently appearing on The Breakfast Club. Berlanga said of Plant, "He's a hater, period. I feel like now he's clout chasing. He's doing a lot of weird things just to be relevant again. A lot of people know dude don't sell. He doesn't sell unless he's fighting a big fighter," he further added. So I'm like, you're a hater, bro, because when it was your time to shine, when it was your time to step into that ring with Canelo and all these guys, I never bashed you. I never said nothing about you. I let you have your moment, but you ain't take your opportunity. You lost. You got knocked out. Berlanga is alluding to the latter, specifically to Plant's stoppage in the 11th round in their November 2021 matchup with Alvarez. In an attempt to overthrow the undisputed super middleweight monarch and surprise everyone in the process, the unbeaten Berlanga intends to achieve quite different outcomes. Critics argue that Canelo's choice of opponent seems strategic, with many experts and fans suspecting he's avoiding a bout with David Benavidez. Canelo had a roster of challengers lined up for his super middleweight titles, including Edgar Berlanga, David Benavidez, and William Skull. The decision to exclude Skull led the International Boxing Federation to strip Canelo of his championship belt. Berlanga is set to get his first crack at a world championship in 8 years, yet some doubt whether he can take on Saul Alvarez. The last fighter to face Canelo was Caleb Plant, who battled him in 2021 and has some insight into what the chosen one will encounter in the ring. Berlanga's numbers should be enough to give him the benefit of the doubt. Being undefeated in his 22 fights with 17 knockouts, however, for Plant he has no arguments and destroyed him with a blunt comment. To sum up, Caleb doubts the chosen one's readiness to take on Canelo, citing a lack of experience and concerns about his resilience against punches. He believes these factors could lead to a knockout. This view aligns with a similar opinion he shared shared in a previous interview. He lacks the skills, I think he lacks the chin, he lacks the boxing ability and the IQ, Plant said about Edgar Berlanga's boxing, whom he would not rule out as a possible opponent in the future. Before their September 14th match, Berlanga couldn't help but whisper a warning in Alvarez's ear at the conclusion of the conference. Berlanga started telling a pool of reporters, "We're trying to become a legend. I gotta beat that man across from me. He told me it's going to be something different, but I told him it's going to be something different." The 27-year-old Berlanga started his career with 16 first-round knockouts, which helped him rise in the boxing ranks. In recent times, 5 out of his last 6 wins have been secured by unanimous decision. However, he also delivered a dramatic 6th-round TKO against Padraig McCrory in February, earning him the mandatory challenger spot for Alvarez's unified super middleweight world title. Eddie Hearn, the Matchroom boxing promoter, known for his past work with Alvarez and his current support of Berlanga, has confidently declared that the Brooklyn fighter will engage head-on with the champion, exchanging blows up close. "I know Canelo wants real fights and guys who will come at him to win. Edgar will come for a firefight," Hearn promised to the media. Berlanga added, "It's will versus will. It's who can break whose will. It's lion versus lion. And you know I'm Puerto Rican, I'm young, I'm strong, and there's going to be fireworks on September 14th. I'm not running, we're not going anywhere. We're going to stay right there, and we're going to do what we do." The idea of a firefight was music to Alvarez's ears. "I love it," the boxing icon said with a grin. He added, "I really love it. I don't expect anything else. I know he's going to come to bring everything and me too. That's the fight. I really like it. I love it, and I'm going to enjoy it a lot." From legends like Floyd Mayweather Jr., Shane Mosley, and Gennady Golovkin to the emerging star Edgar Berlanga, this is how fans often view Canelo Alvarez's boxing odyssey. Now stripped of the IBF title, Alvarez will defend his remaining 3 belts as a unified champion. Yet, there's a growing debate among fans. Many believe a bout with David Benavidez might have been a more fitting challenge than facing the chosen one. Just as the dust was beginning to settle from the announcement of the New York kickoff press conference, a sensational report dropped that shook the boxing world. It appears the reigning super middleweight champion is eyeing a 3rd bout for this year, potentially slated for December. The twist: instead of the familiar venues in Las Vegas or his native Mexico, this fight might unfold in Japan, often called the land of the rising sun. Unsurprisingly, this news left many fans stunned, especially those who were just coming to terms with the Berlanga fight. The unexpected twist sparked a flurry of reactions, with some fans taking to social media to express their immediate and often impassioned thoughts. Michael Benson shared via Twitter, referencing columnist Salvador Rodriguez, that according to Canelo Alvarez's veteran trainer, Eddie Reynoso, plans are underway to potentially set up a fight for the Mexican boxing star in Japan by the end of the year. This is contingent on Canelo securing victory in his 66th career bout against Edgar Berlanga. Following Jermell Charlo, there was widespread anticipation that a showdown between Canelo Alvarez and David Benavidez would materialize. Yet, Alvarez kicked off the year with a bout against Jaime Munguia. As discussions for his September fight began, many hoped that the Mexican monster might finally get his chance. However, Benavidez, who was Alvarez's mandatory challenger for the WBC title, shifted his focus and moved up to the 175-pound division. There is still a lingering curiosity about a matchup with Terence Crawford. However, considering Crawford has recently wrapped up his light middleweight fight, the likelihood of his swift return seems minimal. So who will step up in the monster's homeland? For some, merely mentioning Japan immediately conjures up Naoya Inoue's name. Fans conveyed their thrill at the prospect of a Canelo Alvarez versus Naoya Inoue bout. They are convinced that such a fight would decisively quell the doubts of those who accuse the super middleweight champion of evading formidable opponents. Some fans want a fight between Algerian boxer Iman Khalif, who has been in controversy lately, and Canelo Alvarez.
Who would you say are the top 4 in boxing right now, skill-wise?
I think Inoue, Crawford, Germonta. It's a lot of fighters. I don't wanna be disrespect with other fighters and not make mention there, because it's a lot of fighters, good fighters out there.
Canelo Alvarez might be fully aware of his value and refuses to settle for anything less, or perhaps he isn't truly interested in facing Terence Crawford and is deliberately setting his price beyond reach. On Monday, following his press event, Alvarez was questioned about a potential bout with Crawford. Canelo responded, stating that he'd be open to the match if the money is right. During an interview with Fight Hype, the reporter posed a question to Canelo about the financial terms required to arrange a fight with Crawford, suggesting $100 million as a starting point. The reporter inquired if that would suffice. Canelo's response was clear and concise: $150 million. Turki Al-Sheikh, alongside the influential Saudi power brokers, has been strategically investing to deliver the thrilling matchups that boxing enthusiasts have longed for. Given their substantial investments thus far, it seems unlikely that this asking price would be beyond their financial reach. Nonetheless, Canelo's request might appear disingenuous, and it seems Al-Sheikh has distanced himself from the idea ever since the Mexican icon made his statement. Early Tuesday morning, Al-Sheikh used social media to update his followers on his boxing endeavors, declaring he no longer sought a bout with Canelo. Rather than slowing down, Riyadh season is ramping up its presence in the American market. On August 3rd, Al-Sheikh and his team hosted their inaugural event in the United States. The spectacle unfolded at Los Angeles' BMO Stadium, featuring a headline bout between Terence Crawford and Israel Madrimov for Madrimov's WBA super welterweight title. Crawford clinched victory with a unanimous decision, setting the stage for potential negotiations with Canelo. However, whether it was Canelo's steep demands or another obstacle, the bout never materialized. As a result, Al-Sheikh has lost interest in pursuing the fight. In the world of boxing, change is constant. A door that appears to shut on a Tuesday might swing wide open the next week. A boxing insider doubts that Al-Sheikh's position is set in stone. He attributed the situation largely to psychological maneuvering and strategic negotiations. While it was clear that Canelo was Crawford's preferred next opponent, there is now a need to consider alternative options. Even so, there remains a possibility that focus could eventually return to the Mexican icon. Let's observe if there are any shifts in the landscape, but it's possible that Canelo's future may largely involve matchups against fighters like Berlanga and others considered to be in the Tier 2 category.
Yo creo que Crawford needs to fight Teofimo first, and then we'll see, right? At the end of the day, like I said before, I'm not asking for that fight. They want to make that fight because it's a payday, obviously. But I don't want that fight. I think Teofimo deserves more than me.
He's the king at 140 right now.
Yeah.
Canelo prefers to keep discussions about future plans off limits when a fight is on the horizon. He made it clear that this principle stands firm, even when challenged by boxing's latest influential figure, Turki Al-Sheikh. Alvarez revealed that Al-Sheikh reached out to him on Monday regarding a potential fight in February in Saudi Arabia against Terence Crawford, the newly crowned junior middleweight and 4-division champion who boasts a record of 41-0 with 31 knockouts. They called me yesterday, Alvarez revealed to PPV.com during a Tuesday interview ahead of his press conference with Edgar Berlanga, his September 14th super middleweight challenger, at the Beverly Hills Hotel. He added, "They wanted to meet with me and see about the fight with Crawford in February. I said, look, I'm not interested in talking about another fight. After Sept 14, we can talk, but not right now." Al-Sheikh then announced on X late Monday night that, "Just wrapped up an important meeting now with my team, planning for the upcoming fights that we will make for 2024 to 2025. I decided to disregard the Canelo fight, as I don't want it anymore. Instead, I will be focusing for the US market with bigger fights, especially for the legend Crawford." Alvarez, the reigning 4-division and unified super middleweight champion with a record of February 2nd 61 and 39 KOs, shared his thoughts with occasional promoter Eddie Hearn during the opening stop of his and Berlanga's press tour in New York. Canelo said, "Eddie Hearn asked me, 'Hey, we want to talk about the Crawford fight in February. Turki Al-Sheikh wants to meet you in person in LA. I said, "Look, I don't want to talk about the fight." Obviously, not many individuals put Al-Sheikh on hold. Make sure to check out some of our other videos on the screen if you enjoyed this one.